Good morning, and thanks once again for joining me on the conversation with Kelly Diamond. You can join me every Thursday morning, 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. You can also catch my written word every Monday at globalwealthprotection.com. So, obviously, Indiana, kind of a big deal right now. Apparently, our pro-choice liberals are a little upset about having a choice. Indeed, this law, if nothing else, has certainly highlighted the hypocrisy and the double standards entailed in the pro-choice movement. Now, I first want to preface all of this with a few things. Okay. One, not big on laws. Okay. I think there's, I believe in having guidelines. I believe that there are certain things that I just kind of culturally fall into place. Example, sidebar, but example, you can go to Japan. There's no law that says you can't wear shoes inside a house, but I'll be damned if you aren't going to get castigated for it if you try. You know what I'm saying? Like there's enough cultural pull to where we can keep each other in line. In fact, even Somalia has common law, which has nothing to do with what's in a book or precedent and whatnot. So I do believe that there are social guidelines, but the way we legislate here, not for it. Okay, it's dumb. It's laden with a bunch of crap inside of it, loopholes and whatnot. I don't like the legislation we have here. So maybe I should say I'm not big on legislation. Anyway, not big on that. But second, I take great offense and umbrance with people who have to hide behind religion in order to express a worldview and live freely. I personally am a person of faith. Put that aside for a second. I shouldn't have to play the God card in order for me to do anything. I don't need God's permission slip to live free. Okay, that is an entitlement every human being has. It's an extension of their humanity. If you want to believe it was ordained by a creator, great, but regardless, you can have an atheist who doesn't want to pay for somebody's birth control, as was the case with Hobby Lobby. They're not atheists, but I'm just saying you could have an atheist business that doesn't want to pay for birth control. That doesn't necessarily have to be an exclusively religious thing. Likewise, you can have an atheist who's a homophobe. My uncle was one. He was very open about it. Truly homophobic, not just the epithet. You must be a homophobe because you got issues with homosexuality. No, having an issue with the lifestyle has nothing to do with homophobia. Homophobia is when you're actually fucking scared. That dude was scared. Okay, he was petrified. Truly petrified, like almost mental disorder level. Okay, so you can be an atheist and be a homophobe at the same time. It's not an exclusively religious thing. And in fact, the people who find or take issue with the lifestyle of a homosexual, whether they're homophobic is on a case-by-case basis. That unto itself, taking issue with it unto itself, does not make you scared of people or scared of a lifestyle. It simply means that that's just something that's not in your wheelhouse. You know what I'm saying? There are people who take issue with tattoos and piercings as well. To go so far as to call them bigots would be, just because they don't embrace it and do it themselves, or just because they're not celebrating it with you, does not necessarily mean that they want to stop you from living your life. Okay, let's not jump to those kinds of conclusions because the dots aren't there to connect. But I don't like the idea of having to play the God card in order to live free. That bugs me. Okay. To be fair, the government tends to structure things in such a way where that seems to be the only play you can have. And that's unfortunate because it puts people in that position to have to do that in order to get out of certain things. In order to opt out, you have to play this card. It's a horrible freaking game, and it's rigged that way. And I can't blame Hobby Lobby for doing what it did. If it didn't, I don't care why, and I don't care how irrational it sounds, but at the end of the day, the sad part is that in order to get out of it, they have to play the God card. They shouldn't have to. Saying no should be enough. Saying no should be enough. Imagine somebody propositioning me and saying, I'd like to fuck you for an hour. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm not for sale. Oh, you're just a bigot. No, I'm just not for sale. Well, you don't have a right to refuse service. So what? I gotta say, I believe in God. Oh, okay then. You don't have to fuck me for an hour. You're good. What does me believing in God have anything to do with me not being for sale? What a horrible thing to have to do, and what a horrible position to put people in. Okay, so I don't like it. I don't like the idea that an entire faith is, especially with the Muslims and the Christians and all that. The laws structure themselves in such a way where these religions end up having to are painted in a corner legally. I hate that. So that I take huge umbrage with. Okay, I don't like it, and I'm against this whole Religious Freedom Act. No, just freedom, freedom to discriminate. Okay, so let's put that out there. Next, saying that somebody is free to refuse service promotes bigotry and discrimination, racism and sexism and all the other horribleisms. It doesn't promote anything. What promoted bigotry was Jim Crow laws, when the law was on the other side of the coin, right? When it's illegal and it's criminal to integrate blacks and whites. It's illegal to serve people of color. That promoted bigotry. It criminalized integration. It criminalized tolerance. That's bad, okay? Simply saying you're free to do business with whomever you wish or not does not promote a damn thing. What it does is allows and frees up a person and a proprietor to run their business as they choose. You might not like the way they run their business. Don't go there. Very simple. But here's what I don't want happening, okay? I don't want people to think that we have moral claims over other people's actions. Every business owner is not your personal slave just because you compensate them. And this really brought to light something for me. Just because you compensate them doesn't make it legitimate if they never wanted to trade in the first place. What you're essentially saying when you say we shouldn't allow people to refuse service based on any superficial thing, I don't care what it is, their sexual orientation, their sex, their age, their size, their color, their religion, I don't care, okay? Whatever the discriminatory factor is. When you say they can't discriminate for any reason, you're saying that the public declares eminent domain over the labor of every proprietor. Eminent domain. Government can come in for the greater good and take your shit and give you fair market value for it. Doctors are already feeling this, right? That's what Medicare and Medicaid is. They can still technically opt in or opt out, but by opting out, they lose all the government, all the government insured, right? Can they afford to do that? I don't know. Some can, some do. But it's a declaration of eminent domain over labor. You want the government to claim ownership over someone's labor? Well, we're paying them for it. But it's not for sale. If you take my car and leave a stack of $5,000 in the parking space, that doesn't mean you didn't steal my car. I don't want the fucking money. I want my car back. My car's not for sale. You stole my fucking car. But I left $5,000. don't just get to take whatever the fuck you want and then decide what to compensate me with. If that's it, so if you're saying that the proprietor still has a right to declare a price, then maybe they need to price you out. Yeah. I don't want to bake cakes for gay weddings. But if I'm going to sell you a cake, fine. $25,000. $25,000 for a bunch of flour and fondant? Yes. I'll bake you the cake if you're willing to pay. Are you willing to pay? You created a special price for people who blah, blah, blah. That's right. I tacked on an obnoxious charge. I tacked on a fee. But I won't do it at that price. There's a special price for people who piss me off and make me do shit I don't want to do. Could do that. Or they could fuck up the cake. Hey, you make it all nice and pretty on the outside. When you cut it open, the shit just fucking oozes out. There's a fucking raw egg inside. I mean, you want that? I mean, here I am all fucking worried about pissing off the waitress so she doesn't spit in my goddamn dish. And people aren't even remotely concerned about the kind of service they're going to get from people who are forced to do business with them. Well, talk about achieving a whole new level of fucking hubris. Okay, bold as fucking brass. You want the services of somebody who hates you? You want to keep them in business? Here, there's a huge distinction. I mean, fucking worlds apart distinction between A, defending somebody's right to something, and B, defending that something. Case in point, I'm so vehemently pro-life, you could choke on it. Irony, I know, but it's true. I'm extremely pro-life, okay? Anti-war, anti-death penalty, anti-abortion, and only in the most extreme self-defense cases can we say, yes, you can kill the person and take their life if it meant protecting your own. That's the only caveat I have for taking a life. Other than suicide, which is a choice. Which I'm also, breaks me up that somebody would do it, but it's their personal life. So I back off. And only by the very narrowest of definitions could I qualify as being pro-choice. If you can believe it, I know. My personal convictions about abortion are so, you can't imagine how condemning I am about abortion. You can't imagine how much I resent it, how it makes my skin curl. I mean, if you think of a way to describe disapproval, inject it with steroids and give it a German accent, because that's how much I'm against abortion, okay? And despite that, I don't want a law that says don't abort. I know, wrap your fucking head around it. I fucking hate it. I've just gone on a fucking tear for 5 minutes telling you how much I fucking cannot abide by this inhumane act. Depraved, shameful, name it. I don't care. Think of the most negative thing, ascribe it to abortion. You've somewhat wrapped your head around how much I'm against it. And yet I don't want a law. You don't hear me saying, and you will never hear me say, there should be a law. Now, all the fucking pro-lifers, come on out and tell me how I'm pro-abortion now, how I think killing babies is perfectly fine. Yeah. No. The reason why I don't think there should be a law is because I don't believe they work. If I even had one, person of faith not having any faith in something like that. Okay? I don't have any faith that the law will work. The laws don't work. It creates a horrible black market, creates more violence and more death, something I am against as a pro-life person. I don't want that. Okay? I want life. And sometimes the way to preserve life is to preserve choice. Now, does that mean that if money were no object, I wouldn't be sitting my ass in front of a freaking abortion clinic begging women for their babies? No, I will still continue my advocacy. I will still continue to try and educate women on the choices that they have outside of abortion. They can also adopt their children out. They can also choose to keep the child themselves. If you need resources, I'd be happy to help you find them. All of these happy things, all of these wonderful things, anything to preserve the life of a child. I will continue that advocacy, and I will continue to look for new and inventive ways and support inventive ways that can help preserve the life. Okay? But education will go a lot further and the reason why it will go further is because a person making a personal individual choice and conviction to do one thing or another is far more indelible and lasting than me simply compelling them to do something by force or not do something by force. People are convinced that abortion is perfectly acceptable behavior. If I were to provide an argument to the contrary, if I were able to provide an alternative to the contrary, that would be far more indelible than me simply holding a gun to their head and saying, you better not. The same goes for any other social ill, such as bigotry and racism and all of that nasty shit. Same goes with feelings of vengeance and conflating that with justice. The only way that type of thing, the only way social ills such as that are going to be remedied is through reason and discussion, discourse, and a deluge of information. That's how it's going to get fixed. It's not going to get fixed through laws. You cannot legislate away bigotry. Sorry. Laws just aren't that magical. Legislation is just not that special. And no, we don't have a hall full of people, supposed legislators, who are actually magicians. They don't have that power. They don't have that ability. The only way bigotry goes away is over time and education, period. You can read of stories of reformed Klansmen who once paraded through town in white sheets and then decided one day they were just going to give up the life. They need to get over themselves. And now they're well integrated. They don't have these desires to harm people of color. They don't have any desires of violence toward them. They don't even want to segregate themselves. They have really good friends. They've created great relationships with people of color, and they don't want to give them up. They live a much richer and fuller life. And you know what? There's some people who just can't get around to doing that. But regardless, a business does not have to justify its answer of no. Just like an individual does not have to justify its answer of no. If I say no, no means no. Feminists understand this on some level. They just don't get that it applies to everything. It doesn't just apply to sex. It applies to everything. When I say no, it means no. We're done here. I'm not going to give you anything. I'm not going to do business with you. I'm not going to associate with you in any way. No. Amazing, because those same feminists who think a woman has a choice as to whether or not to go to term with a child doesn't think that somebody should have the choice whether or not to serve somebody who's out of the womb. It only applies to certain labor, apparently, this choice thing. Don't even get me started on prostitutes. Can a prostitute choose who they're going to do business with for any reason? To even suggest no is to condone rape. Don't tell me about how terrible prostitution is and how desperate somebody has to be to get into it. I don't give a fuck about the circumstances under which somebody is doing that kind of business. The point is that they're doing that business. It is business. It's commerce. They're exchanging a good or service for something else in trade, either money or favors or whatever it is, they're trading. It's commerce. To say that a person is just, that it's predatory because they would otherwise not be doing that. Well, I'd otherwise not be having a fucking garage sale either if I wasn't hard up for fucking cash. But I do what I gotta do. There's a lot of things we wouldn't do if we weren't hard up for cash. We wouldn't work the second job. We wouldn't sell some things that are really meaningful to us. We wouldn't do a lot of things. But it's business is business, and at the end of the day, if I don't want to fucking sell it to you, I should be able to say no. Just as a consumer should be able to say no through boycotting. If you're entitled to my service, then fuck it, I'm entitled to your business. Your ass better be here. Your ass better show me some fucking money. Buy my shit. But I don't need it. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to do business with you. You don't need my shit. But by golly, we're going to stimulate this economy if everybody's got to take a bullet to prove the point. Authoritarianism does not make a more, technically it does make a more progressive society politically. Every progressive was a fucking tyrant. But this imposition of utopia, this fucking forceful act. I want the world to live in harmony, god damn it. If it means I gotta kill you to get it, then so be it. What if it were a doctor? Is it the only doctor? Yes, it's the only doctor. Okay, so you're in an isolated place. There's only the one doctor. You can't get to another one. Okay, so we're basically on an island with one tradesman, right? We're on an island with one tradesman, and the doctor says no. What you gonna do? Well, one brilliant person suggested that they hold a gun to the guy's head. Seriously? If you're willing to maim him, if you're willing to kill him, then you might as well have just taken no and moved the fuck on. Why become a murderer in the process? That's fucking stupid. I don't have a gun to his head. Well, fuck, kill me then. That means they're dead and I'm dead. So now you got two people dead. Anything else? Now, personally, if somebody doesn't want to do something for me, the last person on earth I'm going to ask, much less pay to do something for me, is that guy. Moreover, I would love it if bigots would advertise who they are and felt free to express that. No gays, no blacks, no Mexicans, no Eastern Europeans, no Irish, no Indians, no chicks, no dudes, whatever. Put it all out there. Tell me who you're not going to serve. And if I don't like that list, or if I'm on that list, I won't go. Ta-da! Very simple, because as you're boycotting everybody else, your specific customer group and your demographic, people are in turn boycotting you. How sustainable do you think that business model is? Well, it could, if the majority of people think that way, then it could lead to ostracism and people could die. It could lead to ostracism and people could die? That's the argument? All this because somebody reserves the right to say no? I didn't realize these businesses, one, could afford to turn away service. For heaven's sakes, when it was the law to segregate whites from colored, the trains were upset about this because they were losing fares. They could have charged more, and by putting the blacks in with the whites in the first class coaches, they could have filled those seats with perfectly willing black customers, but they weren't allowed to. It was bad for business. Doesn't matter whether they like blacks or not. They'd be happy to take your money and smile and seat you there to make the profit. You'd be surprised how a profit margin sometimes can overcome bigotry very quickly. Yeah, I hate you, but not that much. I can keep a smile on my face. I can keep it civil. I can provide you good service. I can do all the things you want if you're willing to give me your money. I will be your personal fucking puppet. And that's okay if that's what you want to do. But if that's not your thing, if you say, then that's it. Why make them do it? I mean, why not just, when I come to you, when I tell you to bow down and kiss my ring, why don't you do that? Is that okay? Being a customer does not mean that you own the business or the proprietor. It makes you eligible to do business there. At least it certainly puts you in the consideration set. It doesn't necessitate that they take your money. Here's another example. If I wanted to sell knives or guns on Craigslist, I say knives because guns are so difficult in California, especially. It's not Vermont. But let's say I wanted to sell some knives, really nice, weapons. The weapons, not just, cutlery, but real knives, right? I want to sell them. And now on Craigslist, I put it up there and I said, $500 or best offer. So I get all these people asking. And I meet with one guy and one guy says, wow, you could really chop a family with that, can't you? Let's say he does that. Let's say he says it with a completely straight face, and I'll be damned if he doesn't mean it. That could cut through some flesh pretty quick. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I'm going to be making my decision in a bit, so I'll be in touch. Another person comes and says, oh, that's great. My grandpa used to have something like this, and I've been looking all over, and wow, that, it's not the exact same, but it does remind me of him. That's really cool. I have some of his collection left, but I lost the others in a move, and and this looks really cool. I'll buy the whole set, but I can only give you $400. My serial killer friend over there wants to give me $700. Now then, let's say my serial killer friend happens to be a black homosexual, just to sweeten the pot. And the other person who's offering me $400 is just a sweet old housewife. I mean, just for shits and grins. And I say, I'll take the $400 and know that it just went to a nice little collector. As opposed to my black homosexual friend over there who's willing to pay me more for the knives, but made a very off-color comment about how it could really tear through some flesh. Am I allowed to discriminate there? Now, granted, my discrimination was not based on them being black or homosexual, right? It had to do with the fact that they might have intentions with my product that I might not like, and I certainly don't want to facilitate. Now, I could very well just be in it for the profit, hawk them and move on, and that's fine too. But the fact that I wanted to discriminate in that case, is that acceptable? Or do we have to sell everything to everyone for every reason? Pregnant women should still be allowed to ride roller coasters. People who are too short and ergonomically not suitable to ride roller coasters should also be allowed. Children should be allowed to buy cigarettes. We can do this. I'm perfectly fine with it. Sign a waiver, we're good. But by and large, these same people hey, let people buy guns. without a profile, without being profiled, without a psychological evaluation. Take off all that shit and don't discriminate on who gets a gun. Let's do that. No discrimination. We don't discriminate against the mentally ill, goddammit. We will arm your ass. Right? You willing to give up those laws too? Those discrimination laws? Or just certain discrimination laws? The hypocrisy is, see it later is enough to go around. And the argument doesn't stand because no longer can these people argue about choice, no longer can these people argue about equality, no longer can these people argue about freedom, none of that. I don't like the idea of people playing the Jesus card to be an asshole. If you want to be an asshole, do that on your own time. Honestly. If you don't want to serve gays, don't fucking serve gays. But you don't have to lie about it. You don't have to say it's because of Jesus, and you don't have to say it's because you're booked up. Just say you don't want to do it, and respect the fucking choice. They don't want to do business with you, then you don't have to do business with them either. It goes both ways. But go crying to the fucking teacher? Really? That hasn't happened since third grade. Third grade. Bobby doesn't want to play with me. He called me a name. So you go tell the teacher, she says, you better let her play. Well, shit. You only have to do that once to find out you're going to get your ass kicked in the process. How about don't play with them? Go find another group of fucking friends. They're going to make the environment totally fucking hostile anyway. Children know to do this. When they do something against their will, they make it very hostile in the process. Children do this. They don't know what they're doing, per se. It's their natural reaction. It's a natural reaction to a young mind. When they don't want to do something, they become hostile. And their hostility is anything from passive aggressive to just outright physically violent. Likewise, adults still don't want to do shit they don't want to do. Let them go out of business. I don't understand why we're so fucking eager to keep them in business and sustain them with the money from people they don't want to serve. How the fuck did you solve a problem there? In any case, that's my spiel for the week. I will see you next week. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.